I now invite Dr. Sajitha Bashir to deliver the commemorative speech. She is an illustrious economist, international development expert, and currently the executive vice-chairperson of VMFT. With a remarkable career at the World Bank, she served as advisor to the Global Director of Education Practice and as education manager for over 20 countries in Africa, overseeing a vast portfolio of education projects and policy research. Her work spans human development projects in Latin America, South Asia, Middle East, and Africa, bringing deep insights into global education systems and policy reform. I invite Dr. Sajitha Bashir to deliver the commemorative speech.
Thank you very much, Justice Nariman, Dr. Alexander Jacob, Professor Jamila Begum, Shri Sohair, distinguished guests and friends and fellow citizens. On the occasion of the centennial of Shri K.M. Bashir's birth, we are truly honored that Justice Rohinton accepted our invitation to deliver the memorial lecture, and he chose the theme, Fraternity in a Secular State. It's a subject that deeply resonated with the founder of VMFT. I wish to share a few words about Shri K.M. Bashir's life, his work, and the institution he founded. He would not have wanted an eulogy, only reflection on the experiences and ideas that inspired him and how they culminated in the creation of VMFT. At the time of Bashir Sar's birth in 1925, only 20% of Muslim men had basic literacy, and almost no Muslim women could read. So their situation was comparable to that of the majority of the people, including the Dalit castes and downtrodden castes. Bashir Sar himself was a first-generation learner, the first in his family and his village to complete not only secondary school, but also postgraduate education in mathematics at the Maharaja's College, now the University College of Trivandrum. His sister was the first Muslim girl in the village to pass the 10th grade, for which she had to endure many insults. From these modest beginnings, Bashir Sar joined the regional office of the newly established National Sample Survey in Bangalore, then went on to the Central Statistical Office in Delhi, and later to the Bureau of Labor Statistics at the International Labor Office in Geneva. On returning to Kerala after retirement, he became director of the Kerala Statistical Institute. This is no doubt an impressive trajectory, but it's not unique. Many in this audience, their parents or grandparents, may have had a similar trajectory, similar path. But the important issue is how Bashir Sar viewed his own professional development. He did not attribute it only to his own hard work or his ability or to the sacrifices of his family. He always emphasized the role of society and especially Kerala's social reform movements of the early 20th century. So Travancore in his formative years, let us remember, witnessed such deep transformations. The year of his birth marked the Vakkom Satyagraha, or the culmination of it, where ordinary people boldly challenged caste exclusions and privileges. But the groundwork was laid 2 decades earlier, when reformers like Sri Narayana Guru, Ayyankali, Sahodharan Ayyappan, and Vakkom Moulavi, they questioned the intellectual and philosophical and religious basis of the inequalities and injustices in the society, including in their own communities. That spirit of self-criticism to which Professor Jamila Begum also referred pervaded the atmosphere, and the idea of equal rights and of development of all sections of society began to spread. And looking back on his own success, Bashir Sar paid tribute to these new ideas, to the spread of knowledge, not just in educational institutions, but also in the public sphere, to the thinkers and reformers of the time, have some water, and to the powerful social movements that they helped create. He felt throughout his life that he owed a debt to the society which nurtured him, and he needed to contribute the transformative ideas that led to collective action. His work with the National Sample Survey left an enduring mark and shaped his outlook. Surveying rural Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka, he encountered the kind of poverty that did not exist in Kerala, far worse than what he could have imagined. And he saw that poverty stripped people of dignity and self-respect. Although the warmth and hospitality of the rural villagers stayed with him, his conclusion was clear. Without remunerative employment and livelihoods for rural people, there would be no development of India. This experience with the ground realities of rural poverty helped him understand the role of the global organizations such as the International Labour Organization. At the ILO in Geneva, he worked on global labor statistics and standards, but he also gained a front row view of international politics. And one episode which should resonate today was that in 1975, when the ILO granted observer status to the Palestine Liberation Organization, the United States withdrew funding, endangering the programs of the ILO, as well as many jobs. It was an early instance of powerful states undermining international organizations, and we see the consequences today. This experience deepened his sympathies for what we would now call the Global South. But his heart always remained with Kerala and India. The idea of creating an institution dedicated to learning, justice, and progress for all people, as well as interfaith understanding, began in Geneva, and interactions with Professor K.N. Raj, the founder of the Center for Development Studies in Trivandrum, sharpened his thoughts. Academia had an important role in society, yet he felt academia, that is universities and so on in India, remained too detached from people's needs. Knowledge should be disseminated in ways that ordinary citizens could use in public deliberation and social advancement. Further, development needs to be holistic, economic, political, cultural, and spiritual. The institution he envisioned should be rooted in the local society, but it should link up with national and global knowledge and experiences. But let me now turn to the core mission of VMFT, the idea of fraternity, which is also the focus of this lecture. I can't stress enough how important this last theme was to his conceptualization of VMFT. Soon after his death in 1990, I discovered some handwritten notes about the concept of VMFT. And I quote, "The VMFT is intended to bring understanding between religions and communities. It is a primary function. Every action by it should keep this in mind," end quote. So fraternity was central to his worldview. It is not a veneer, a coat of paint, as Ambedkar said, for VMFT. It is part of its fiber and inner core. VMFT was not envisaged as a welfare organization for a particular community. He also linked this primary function of VMFT with the issues of economic and social development. And I quote, "Economic development of the kind adopted in India will lead to tensions and conflicts. One main reason is that certain individuals and groups are better placed to snatch the opportunities and benefit from them. And often these groups are associated with castes and communities," end quote. So fraternity is undermined not only by the prejudices of common people, but also by the type of economic and political policies that are adopted by the state. VMFT was formally established in 1986, a watershed year in India, marked by the opening of Babri Masjid, the Shah Bano case, and the rise of communal mobilization. Despite this climate, VMFT was dedicated to fraternity. And Bashir Sir noted that this could be a turning point in Indian history, and how prescient was that observation. He deliberately named this institution after Vakkom Moulavi, no direct relative of his, because Vakkom Moulavi had been largely forgotten in Kerala's modern history, despite his outstanding role as a journalist, as a reformer, the founder of the celebrated Swadeshabhimani. And Bashir Sir believed that restoring the neglected contributions of different communities was vital for building fraternity. He passed away in 1990, as perhaps he would have wished, on a stage at a public function like this. So there were no farewells. There was no last-minute advice or guidance. The organization was still fledgling, without a building, without a proper structure. Yet even in that brief period, VMFT became a magnet for intellectuals, activists, and NGOs. And his vision of the institution endured thanks to his family's financial and other support and the voluntary efforts of many, many people from all communities. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, in his final speech to the Constituent Assembly in November 1949, he lamented the absence of two things in Indian society: equality and fraternity. Speaking of fraternity, he warned, and I quote, "Without fraternity, liberty would produce the supremacy of the few over the many. Without fraternity, liberty and equality could not become natural. It would require a constable, a policeman, to enforce them. Fraternity," Ambedkar said, "was a principle that gives unity and solidarity to social life. So this principle must animate the legislature, executive, and judiciary in order to secure equality and liberty. In India's context, it means respect for and protection for diverse cultures and communities. This principle should underpin all economic and social policies. But above all, fraternity must live in the hearts of the people, in yours and in mine, amongst all Indians who feel they are part of one people. It must be expressed in daily actions, transmitted to children and young people as moral and civil values essential for their everyday life. And it must be reinterpreted anew by each generation to define the kind of society we want to live in. When the state fails, ordinary people must assert these values even more strongly, and institutions like VMFT must be strengthened. This, I believe, is the true legacy of Bashir Sir. Thank you very much.